What's up, everyone, and welcome into the Buffalo Sports Collective. It is Monday, December 25th, 2023. As always, I am PK alongside my co-host, Phil. Phil, I got two happy puppies here because I'm on puppy duty, but happy Christmas, Phil. Happy Christmas.
Happy Merry Christmas. I was like, it's not, but it is when this comes out. So, yeah, Merry Happy Christmas. And to the puppies over there as well. My cats are locked out of the room. I feel like, nope, the one would not behave if she was in here.
Yeah, I was thinking about locking the two other, or like all three of them out of the room, but I know how they would react when they think they're alone, and that would go worse than when they know I'm here. So I got two recording buddies until Brooke comes back midway through, and then I'll stand up, shut the door, and kick them on the other side. But yeah, it is Christmas as you guys are listening to this, so hopefully you are having a fun, happy, healthy, safe Christmas. If you do celebrate Christmas. We will be doing that in our household. I believe you're going to be doing that in your household. Producer Pat's doing that in his household. So just a fun little play us around the Christmas tree. Let your grandma know who the BSC is, the fire, your kitchen table, whatever you're listening to, and wherever you are. Blast us so you can help spread the word of who we are so that we can continue to grow. So if you want to also let them know where else they can find us, we're on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads at Buffalo Sports Collective, and on X and Blue Sky at Buffalo Sports Co. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel wherever you listen to podcasts. Check out our website at buffalosportscollective.com, and look for the time breakdown in the description of the show. Phil, just because it is Christmas for us doesn't mean we're going to stop bringing you episodes. Yes, like we said, it is Christmas time, and we have stuff to talk about. Why Christmas had to land on a Monday, I don't know, but who cares? Here we go. The Buffalo Bills must-win game. We both were talking about it. You mostly were bringing up the trap game. And man, was it almost a trap game, but it was a self-inflicted trap game. The Bills did walk out of L.A. 24-22 victors on a Tyler Bass game-winning field goal with still 28 seconds left on the clock, I think it was. Allen 15 for 21 for 231, 1-1, and then he had 5 rushes for 15 yards and 2 touchdowns. Cook kind of took a little bit of a holiday. He jumped into Christmas early, 20 for 70 with a lost fumble, and then Davis came around for the holidays, 4 for 130 and 1.
Yeah, this game, so we could have done this earlier, especially with the Eagles game. I think we did it a little bit, but not for playoff implications. That's not why I'm bringing this up. But if you look at this game as if the Bills lost, like if for some reason the Chargers were able to kick a field goal and they won 25-24, for example, and you just looked at this game through the lens of a loss versus through the lens of a win, like the win makes it feel a little bit better because you escaped. But if you look at it as if they lost, like I feel like every single issue they had in this game gets magnified that much more because it would have been a loss. So if you look at it from that way, this was a horrible game. Like, just awful. All the way around, you lost the turnover battle 3-0. You lost the time of possession. You lost the amount of offensive plays. Like, you looked bad in a must-win game. The offense looked not so great. They had flashes. They had exciting plays here and there, but you only put up 24 points. The defense, I mean, I don't know how many points were off turnovers. I know at least one of the touchdowns that they gave up.
16 of 22.
Right. So the defense, it is what it is. I mean, the offense kind of let them down a little bit. Overall, I thought the defense did okay. The amount of consistent pressure they had on Stick, I thought wasn't really there. They did get to him with 5 sacks, which is really good. But as far as like just consistently being up in his face, I thought they didn't do the best job. I know they had some injuries. So again, it's going to be a little bit worse, but I thought they could have done a little bit better job making him not as comfortable. And then the Chargers did pretty well with the Bills' bend don't break kind of defense, just taking what was given to them, which was like 20-yard chunk plays. But overall, it was terrifying. I mean, you and I were watching the game, and we went into that last field goal by Tyler Bass, and even after he kicked it, which we were, I think, more nervous about than we should have been, with the amount of time on the clock, we were still nervous. Like, you shouldn't be nervous in this kind of game. I mean, it's a new coach. It's a pretty much rookie backup quarterback getting in there. I know he's been in the league for a while, but not really in these situations. And, you know, they don't have Keenan Allen. Eckler is not who he used to be. This should have been a much, much easier win than it was. And I think the win kind of shadows kind of just how bad this game really was. And then there's like no weather to, explain that it was bad. It was gross. It was a very gross victory. I know it was a must win. They got the win, which is exciting, but it was a very gross trap game kind of win.
Yeah, you're talking about the losing the turnover battle, 3-0. When that happens, teams who loses the turnover battle were 10 and 249. So you are number 11 now that lost the turnover battle, but still ended up walking
That's
out
crazy.
of there.
That's
260 games they were able to do it.
Wow, that's an insane stat that I did not know. I mean, they always talk about the turnover battle being a big deal. I did not know it was that lopsided of a record if you lose the turnover battle like that.
Yeah, I mean, the majority of this was self-inflicted wounds. Josh Allen trying to go cross-body deep to the field, short-armed, and threw it short to Stephon Diggs, who that ended up being an interception. The James Cook fumble, that was his second one, but the only one that actually counted in the game because the other one, his knee was down. And then the Hardy fumble. Those can't happen. Special teams were killing them. Even when they got backed up there, they got that backed up because for some reason, and I don't know why, and the Buffalo Bills are one of the few teams that do this, if the ball is kicked short or in the middle, like right inside the end zone, they're running it back. They're running it out. I don't know why. You get it to the 25 regardless, and you got Josh Allen as your quarterback. Just wave for a fair catch. Even if you do it on the 20, guess what? You get an extra 5 yards. It doesn't make any sense, Phil. I see it over and over and over. And guess what? The one time they did it, it was a holding call, so they brought it back. And then there was more penalties, so they brought it back. And then it was the Saran Neal jumped off sides, or false start, so you got brought back even more. Special teams, stop running the ball out. No kick returns are worth it. It's just the odds of you running back the kick return further than the 25 is not worth the risk of running it out, getting to the 20, and then guess what? There's a holding call, you're back at the 10. It's stupid. It makes no sense. I don't know why the team continues to do it. There was too many self-inflicted wounds in this game. This game should not have been this close. They went down 10-0 early, battled back to make it 14-10. But it's just I was one of the ones that you were saying trap game, and in my head I'm going, there's no way this is a trap game. Like the Bills know what they have to do. It can't be a trap game because this team needs to win games. And they came into this one going down 10, and I'm like, I'm an idiot. This was 100% a trap game. And it was a trap game because it was a bad opponent who had no stars, who had just fired their head coach. It was just before the holidays. You had to go cross country. It's just they did every single thing they could do to lose this game, and they walked out with a W. And I completely understand where you started, where you're like, hey, if they would have lost this, we would be talking about this much differently than if they would have won this. And I agree. I mean, they walked out of this as ugly as it was. They got the W that they absolutely needed. But, man, Phil, that was as ugly of a game as we have seen in a while. And the old Bills, the Bills from earlier in the season, they would not have won this game. So I will chalk it up to this is a different team than we saw in the middle part of the season, just because I don't think the middle part of the season Bills would have walked out of this one victorious. That home, I don't know if this gave you chills because we were not that old, but when they had that last play drawn up with 1 second to go and they threw that ball across the field, every part of me clenched because I was like, this has happened before. I've seen this before. They give highlights of this before. That was such a great play design
and it should have worked
by the Chargers. It should have. It should have worked. If he would have cut in
and that player
instead
just
of cutting
ran
back
straight.
Yep,
he would have scored a touchdown.
Yep. That's how close they were.
And even that, like, even the play just went on for so long. Like, it was one of the
every
longer,
single thing up until that, it was well designed. Like, it was exactly what they were supposed to do, and it was beautiful.
Well
it was absolutely beautiful, especially with a interim short week head coach to be able to pull that out of his butt and just go, "What's your best play for 1 second to go?"
Yeah, I mean, like you mentioned, Cook did not perform very well. Got the 20 carries, which is good commitment by Brady to the ground game and to Cook. I did like seeing that he was back up in the 20 mark, but 70 yards.
I also liked. Sorry, real quick. I also like that McDermott went right back to him after that fumble too.
Yep.
That was one thing that I noticed.
As soon as he fumbled, I was like, oh, here we go. But luckily they stopped that. I mean, Fournette was ended up being their most efficient running back, but he was okay in there. I mean, there was nothing fancy or explosive or exciting having him in there, but he did what he needed to do coming in his first game. So I think he did okay. But Cook crossing the 1,000-yard mark on the season, first time since a Bills running back did that since Sean McCoy in 2017. So that's a small positive out of this game. But I think it was interesting the way the offense, knowing the running game was struggling, really went to secondary wide receivers that have been missing a little bit since Cook kind of took over. I mean, Davis, like you mentioned, massive game, but even Shakir, those two alone had pretty much all the yardage for the offense for the most part. But you mentioned it, I think it was last episode, maybe the week before, that Diggs is pretty much non-existent in this offense, and it happened once again in this offense. 5 for 29. They're still trying to hit him with those weird screens. I don't know. Like, he makes huge plays. There was the end of the game. It was 3rd and 8. They needed the first down to get into field goal range, and he caught it. It was a huge play by him and Allen. Like, they have that connection still. It's still there. When he needed to come up big, he did, but, like, I don't know. I mean, they're winning, but 5 for 29, and he has not had a good game in a really long time, so I worried is, I don't know if it's the right word, because I don't think it's a Diggs thing. Like you mentioned, like Brady simply might not be scheming him quite as much. I mentioned that he's going to be possibly used as a little bit more of a decoy, and it seemed like that's exactly what happened in this game with Davis and Shakir kind of going off. But even Kincaid, who had a really good stretch for a little bit, he's been non-existent. So I don't know. Weird things from the offense. They did okay other than the turnovers that, you know, they could have put up more points if they didn't have 2 of those turnovers. But I don't know. The offense, while still looking really good, I'm not worried at all, but just a few interesting things with Diggs kind of disappearing, Kincaid disappearing more recently. It's just interesting.
Yeah, I brought it up on the last show where I was mentioning he hasn't had a 100-yard game since the Giants game. I didn't call it concerning last game. I think I said I was looking for the alarm. My hand's over it. If we don't see a Stefon Diggs bigger game or more of a emphasis to get him more involved in the game, he still saw 8 targets, the most targets.
Right.
I mean, his target percentage.
I wonder what his
like
ADOT is right now, though. It's got to be so tiny.
Right.
It's getting all these screens like 10 times a game. Like, they're not doing anything.
The first play of the game was a screen to him, and Josh Allen short-armed it.
Right,
but
which
he's
going to
have to come up big. He's going to have to come up big if this team ends up making a run in the playoffs, because your star players need to come up as star players when the time presents itself. So that's the biggest thing, is it's not hurting them right now with him being underperforming. So it's a good and a bad thing. Diggs has not performed well under Joe Brady since he took over. But on the other part of that, he hasn't needed to since Joe Brady took over, because the offense is doing well. This is the first time under Joe Brady that the offense hasn't looked right, and I can't really blame Joe Brady for it, because it was self-inflicted wounds. That he's not out there holding the guys. He's not out there jumping off sides. He's not out there sticking his leg up, tripping guys like Spencer Brown was. He wasn't out there dropping passes. He wasn't out there fumbling. You can only do so much. So I can't really put the blame for this game on Joe Brady, but the lack of Stefon Diggs in the offense is becoming more and more concerning each game that he has not performed. Again, a lot of people were saying that we shouldn't be able and shouldn't have to rely on Josh Allen as much as we are. The running game needs to get going. Under Joe Brady, that has worked, but it's almost at a cost of what Stefon Diggs was doing before Joe Brady took over. And again, that's not a bad thing. It's just something of note to keep an eye on, because we haven't seen Diggs have a Diggs game with the new OC.
Yeah, Allen, the last 2 games combined, has only had 36 pass plays or pass attempts. So they're really just not throwing as much since Brady took over. But exactly what you just mentioned. That's fine. You don't want to have to rely on Allen for everything, and Diggs is still leading the team in targets every single game, but I feel like the targets he's getting are just not great. It's a lot of screens. It's a lot of really short dump offs. It's a lot of, 3rd and 3, let me go to my guy, and he gets 4 yards, which is fantastic. You need those plays, and they need to happen, but still, it just, and even the one that he short-armed, like, had he hit Diggs in stride that could have been a touchdown right there. And then
Right.
you're talking about this completely different if he gets, a long bomb touchdown, but Allen running very far away from the play, trying to cut across his body, which he's done plenty of times and did pretty much on the Gabe Davis touchdown. So he can do it, but it wasn't the wisest throw. But I mean, Diggs had burned his man. He was open if Allen wasn't scrambling. So, I mean, he is still involved. He's still getting there, but yeah, it's just, again, not concerning, but just something to keep an eye on moving forward.
So we're recording around 10:40 on Sunday morning. So there's not a ton of games we can go over. They did get help with the Steelers. The Steelers did take down the Cincinnati Bengals in a big way. So the Buffalo Bills now control their own fate. They're sitting at 5-5 in their conference, 9-6. They get the 6th seed as we're recording right now. But a bunch more big time games are being played on Sunday. So everybody that's listening to this will know where the Buffalo Bills stand. But really, we went over last show who to root for, who to root against. So it's going to be a big Sunday game moving forward. So Phil, with that, we will move on to the Buffalo Sabres now. This is going to be my monotone segment. Thursday, like we predicted, they took down the Leafs 9-3. Greenway, Powers, Skinner had 2. Dahlin, Tage, Oposo had 2, and then Quinn scored. Levi, 24 of 27 save shots, were 34-27 in favor of the Sabres. And then Saturday versus the Rangers, 4-3 win in overtime. Dahlin, Quinn, and Middlestad were the goal scorers. UPL, 29 of 33 saves. They lost in overtime. Shots were 33-30 in favor of New York.
Yeah, both of these games, good. Overall, I am not convinced because this team has yet to find any kind of consistency throughout the season. But playing against two of the best teams in the entire league, they looked really good against the Leafs. I thought a few of those goals should have been saved in the Leafs game, but for the most part, honestly, they just looked like the better team. I thought their forecheck was really good. I thought they were causing a lot of defensive turnovers by the Leafs, and a few of those turned into goals. So overall, I thought the Leafs game was incredible, especially when they bounced back. I mean, it's really annoying to have to talk about that big of a bounce back game, but it was the first time in 40 years since pretty much to the day. It was December 21st, December 23rd of 1983 that a team allowed 9 goals and then scored 9 goals in the next game. So almost exactly 40 years in the NHL since that's happened, and it's just mind-blowing that you can give up 9 goals to one of the worst teams and then score 9 goals against one of the best teams. But they looked really good doing it, and then the Rangers game, it was a lot of the same. They still looked very good. The Rangers looked good as well, but I think the big thing in that one, again, was the forecheck looked really good. They got a few forced turnovers that led to goals. Even on the power play goal, Greenway was pinched up against the boards, and he just took his time, had the puck, but was also being squeezed, and then found Dahlin wide open in the middle for a huge goal. Quinn looks really good, but overall, I mean, it was extremely encouraging to see these two games. The fight they had in them, the competition they had in them looked way, way better than they did against Columbus. But I don't know. Yeah, I'm going to have to see this the rest of the season to be convinced that this team is back and, are really pushing for the rest of the year. They've done this before where they've gone on stretches against really good teams where they look good and then have just done terrible. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, they played incredible Thursday. They went back to the style that Granato said they were playing last year, and he said as things pop up, they'll fix them. But I've said it for a few years now. If you're going to suck, at least be fun and suck, and that hasn't been the case this year. That was a fun game to watch. The Leafs were one of the good teams. We kind of said it on the podcast that we fully expect them to bounce back from an ugly Columbus game and beat the Leafs, and they did that. And then they fought back 2 times, down 2-0, and then 3-2 to hang with one of the better teams in the Rangers. The issue is, and will continue to be until I'm proven wrong, they can't beat lower-level teams, and what's hurting them is they can't stack wins. It still goes back. They've done it one time this year. One time. And you were going into this one, you got the Leafs, the Rangers, and then coming back after the holidays, I believe it's Boston.
Yes.
You can't keep relying on this team to keep trying to get points from the top-tier teams and continue to lose against the bottom dwellers. That's not a playoff team. That's not a playoff recipe to make the playoffs. It doesn't happen. This is how I'm going to be until I see this team stack some wins. I have no faith in this team whatsoever. You can go out and have a 9-3 victory over the Leafs, and it's all good and all a feel-good story, but the damage you've done so far more than one third through the season, is it doesn't matter if you have those type of wins because you're going to end up losing against the Columbuses of the world, or the Sharks of the world, or the lower level teams of the world, because you play to your competition's level, and that is not a way to succeed in this league. And again, it stinks that I have to talk so down about the Buffalo Sabres at this point, because yes, it was a very good win against the Leafs, and yes, it was a very good game versus the Rangers, but I just don't care anymore. Like, I don't care until I see it on the ice that you can, compete and beat the teams that you're supposed to and stack some wins. They haven't been able to do it, so why should these two games back to back where you steal 3 out of the 4 points do anything for my confidence in this team? Because they haven't done it yet this year. So I'm not going to be bought back in until I see them continue, or not even continue, start stacking wins. And they haven't done it, and I have no faith that they're going to be able to do it because they haven't done it yet.
Yeah, I mean, coming up is exactly what you're hoping for and what you're looking for. So you got the Bruins on Wednesday, which is going to be tough, but apparently this team likes playing tough teams. Then you go against pretty much the bottom of the league for a little while. You have the Blue Jackets again, you have the Senators, the Canadiens, the Penguins who are struggling, the Kraken who are, I believe, decent. You got the Senators again, the Canucks, and then the Sharks and the Blackhawks. So coming up, you have a ridiculously winnable schedule against just the bottom trash of the league. So, I mean, that's a 10-game stretch coming up that you are playing pretty much all winnable games. So in a 10-game stretch coming up, other than Boston, let's see, you go 8-1-1 or 7-1-2, something. Like, give me a good 10-game stretch here. If you want to include these Maple Leafs and Rangers games, fine. 12-game stretch of something decent. But if they come out of this 12-game stretch of pretty winnable games and they, go under 500 with it or just 500, it's going to be just right back to not having the confidence in this team. The other good thing I did see in the Rangers game, which is a very confusing play, and I don't really want to get crazy into it, but Eric Johnson simply stepping up for Ryan Johnson after Ryan Johnson took a pretty heavy hit up high, and then Eric Johnson stepped in, went to fight the Rangers player. They both dropped the gloves and they fought. Just seeing Johnson step in for his teammate is something we don't often see on the Sabres, which is a little bit depressing. So I thought that was really good to see, just the general camaraderie and team spirit that he was able to, step in and fight up for Ryan Johnson. I don't know if it's because they have the same last name, but it was nice to see him step in for his buddy. And then Opozo and Eric Johnson were furious at the refs for all the calls after that, which we don't have to get crazy into, but it was just really good to see them stand up for each other. So I think it is, again, these two games are a step in the right direction, but until you do it consistently, it's just not all that exciting.
Yeah, that's about where I am. I'm not excited. I'm not happy. I'm not disappointed. I'm just in existing for the Buffalo Sabres right now.
Good for them. Do it a lot more times.
Right. You got to prove it to earn some of this back, and you can't even blame anybody for having that opinion because that's the way the Buffalo Sabres have been for a while. So we'll move on to a look around the NLL. 3 games. Got to watch them all. Friday, first game was Toronto versus Panther City. Toronto took down them 13-10. Nice comeback victory, and Toronto kind of extended their lead out in the bottom of the fourth quarter. Then the later game that night at 9 p.m., Georgia took on Colorado. Georgia swept the head-to-head series, the home and home, 15-8. Georgia has the tiebreaker over Colorado now because they took both of their games, which is fun that first 2 games for Colorado, he had to take on Georgia, and 2 of the first 3 for Georgia, he had to take on Colorado. 15-8, like I mentioned. And then the only Saturday game, Vancouver travels across the country to Rochester. Rochester comes away with this one 13-11. Phil, any notes across these 3 games that stood out to you?
Dylan Ward, oh my goodness. I don't know what's going on over here. Dylan Ward looks concerning early on in the season. I mean, he's a veteran player who just got a massive contract by NLL standards, so I'm not overly concerned about him as a Bandits fan, or even if you're a Colorado fan. But early on in the season last year, he did not look great, and the team kind of followed how he did because they don't really have the best offense to keep up in these kind of games. So if he's not playing at the top of his level, they're going to keep losing. So I think he's an interesting one to watch in Colorado. Georgia, their offense is looking good again. I don't know. Ward's just interesting in that, but Dobson, even him, 42 saves, only allowed 8. That looks pretty good. Vancouver and Rochester. Rochester's having another early impressive start to their season. They haven't played anyone overly exciting other than Calgary, but still, they're starting off hot, and same with Toronto, also starting out hot. But Matthews, I think right now is the story in Toronto. He's had a really, really good start for them, and with Schneider not even playing yet, that offense is going to look really scary really soon. I'm very excited in a weird way for that game with the Bandits in Toronto, not only because it's great competition, but to really see where both of those teams stack up. Like you want to see the top teams play the top teams to see where they actually stack up in the league and kind of just where they are in their season. So not getting the opportunity early on is a little bit tough, but I know the Bandits have Rochester coming up in a few weeks, so we'll see what that looks like. But overall, Rochester, Toronto looking very scary. Colorado looking like they have some questions that need to be answered.
Yeah, I'll start with the Toronto game. 13-10 win. Matthews is definitely the big name over there while Schreiber's out. I think I wrote in my write-up that I think everybody's kind of interested to see how that partnership works out between Mark Matthews and Tom Schreiber, but we haven't been able to see it yet. But this was a much closer game than I thought it was going to be. Rose came in questionable. He didn't look questionable whatsoever. We were talking right before this. I think it's more like the Nanaco questionable, where he's got to be on the injury report, but he's always going to play. The second quarter was all rock. They scored 4 straight to take that 7-5 lead in the half, and then Panther City would go on to score 5 straight in the middle of the third quarter into the middle of the fourth to take that 10-9 lead, and then Mark Matthews would score 2 straight to take the lead, and then Small and Bushi would extend the lead to 13-10. I thought this was a good test by Toronto early in the season because 4 weeks in so far, they've had a bye, played. So it'll be interesting to see if and what this team looks like when they play back-to-back, which will happen next week. The Georgia-Colorado game, first game for Dylan Ward. He definitely looked rusty in the beginning, and then just it all fell apart. Georgia has a very, very good offense with Lyle, Jackson, even McIntosh had 4 points in this one. Seth Oakes, he looks really dangerous in this offense because what it looked like was Colorado was just shadowing Lyle Thompson, and then anytime he made a move, the second guy would come over to Lyle, and Lyle would just hit the open man. And usually that was Oakes, who had 4 goals in this one. But Dobson came out really good in this one. It was a bit shaky in the first quarter, and then it all calmed down. Georgia had the good first 5 minutes. Then Colorado had the good middle of the first, and then it was 2 straight into the third. Colorado would actually cut it to 8-5, but then Georgia would go on to score 7 of the final 10 in the game. Ward wasn't sharp, like we mentioned, 35 saves on allowing 15. The offense couldn't get going for the Mammoth. Transition game for Georgia was really, really good. Their pick and roll game is really, really good for the Swarm. Their offense, when it's on, they can't be stopped. And then the Vancouver-Rochester game, Rochester is like that little brother that won't go away, who's just real annoying. That's what they've done the first 3 games. Is anytime you think that you're up high enough on Rochester, they come storming back. Lanchberry looks like a great trade. We were trying to figure out why Georgia would trade Ryan Lanchberry. Apparently Rochester was after him all offseason, and the opportunity presented itself, and Georgia sent him out, and both offenses look great right now. He went 2-5-7, Fields 2-3-5, Smith third straight game with a third straight hat trick. It's what I was a bit worried about with Vegas, or with the Warriors coming in, was there was high expectations because a new coach, new system, new teammates. It just seems like they're off to a slow start unless they're in Vancouver because their 2 road games so far have not turned out very well. They did hang around, but the biggest thing in this one was I was wondering who was going to be the netminder for Rochester. I thought it would be Hutchcraft just because of what we saw and how the team performed in front of him, but it was Hartley, and it was a very scary situation. He took a shot off the mask. He went down, tried to make the secondary save. It went in, but then he was really, really wobbly coming off. We haven't seen any news reports, probably won't because it's the NLL, but I mean, if Hartley's out for any extended amount of time, you're going to have to lean on Hutchcraft, which I thought they were going to do anyways, but he made 20 saves out of 23 opportunities down the stretch because Hartley left in the middle of the third quarter, I believe it was. And then the last bit here, Vancouver was actually doing a really, really good job defending Connor Fields, but Rochester just adjusted. And Fields is like, hey, even if I'm not scoring, which he only had 2 of the 13, I can still contribute. So he had 13 assists. He's leading the league in scoring right now with 22 points, I believe it is. Rochester's going to be scary. They did this early last year where they went hot in the beginning and then kind of tailed off. It'll be interesting to see if they learned from their mistakes last year and adjusting to other teams' adjustments. And what will help them is the unified standings, because they won't have to face Buffalo twice, and they won't have to face Toronto twice, and Halifax twice. So Rochester's going to be that annoying little brother that's going to be hanging around all season long.
They do have to play Buffalo twice.
Oh, well, there you go. That's one.
There's 2 losses. But yeah, Rochester, like you said, started really hot last year, but that's the question. Will they learn from last year and actually try to keep it going and be a little bit more consistent? But they do look scary. Their offense looks really good. I agree with you. I think Hutchcraft should be their goalie, so absolutely not the way you want Hutchcraft to possibly be their starting goalie is with a injury to Hartley. It's never what you want to see, but I think they'll be okay. It's not, as if a starter went down and the backup is a nobody. Hutchcraft was doing pretty well for them this entire season when he stepped in relief, so I think he's going to be pretty good. And then, we'll see if they can continue. Toronto looks good as expected, but like you said, PCLC was able to kind of hang in there and give them a little bit of a run for their money. And then Colorado, I don't know. We'll see what they look like. They're also coming to town sooner than later for the Buffalo Bandits, so that'll be an interesting game. Hopefully they step it up. Not Colorado, the Bandits.
Yeah, next week, going into week 5, it's going to be a very, very busy week. There's 3 Friday games. There are 3 Saturday games and a Sunday game. So good thing it's another holiday weekend, because 7 total games, only 1 team's on bye. It's going to be a wild weekend with a lot of game implications and standing implications. But Phil and I will be up in the press box for the Friday game for the Georgia game. It's going to be a fun experience, and can't wait for it. So, Phil, it is Christmas today. Once again, happy Christmas, Phil. I'm doing that because of Harry Potter. But we thought to end this game and this show, because we're a half an hour in. We already talked about all our sports. It might be a smaller audience listening to this episode. So let's have a little fun and try to bring some people in. So we both came up with a naming game for the holidays. Would you like me to go first, or you want to throw out your game first?
I will let you have dealer's choice. What do you want?
I will go first.
All right.
This one's, I was trying to think, because you said you had a fun game, and I was like, okay, I'll come up with a fun game as well. This one's called PK Sports Athletes Holiday-Themed Names. There have been thousands of professional athletes to come and go around the sports world, and a few of them have very normal names. It's not that uncommon to have a very normal name. My name's very normal.
Josh
Your name's
Allen.
very normal. Josh Allen, very normal name. But there are a handful that always come along and will leave you absolutely shell-shocked. These are PK's top 10 best holiday-themed sports athlete names. Think of that as a heavy worded title. I'm going 10-1 here. These are my favorite holiday-themed sports names of sports athletes. Number 10, Drew and Lauren Holiday. Pretty easy. Current NBA player and retired soccer player. They're a wonderful couple, and their last name is Holiday, so why not throw them at number 10? Phil, number 9.
Good start.
Jimmy Clausen. Former Notre Dame quarterback drafted in the 2nd round by the Panthers in 2010. I think there were rumors of him coming to Buffalo, but Jimmy Clausen, number 9. Number 8, Darius Slay. Former Detroit Lions cornerback, now he's with Philly. Slay, that's what Reed Ferguson was doing in our last episode.
Yeah.
Number 7, Kyle Rudolph. Former NFL tight end with the Vikings, most notably. I can't remember where he went after the Vikings, but Kyle Rudolph is number 7 on my list.
I like it.
Number 6, Tree Rollins. And yes, his name is spelled Tree Rollins. 18-year NBA player from 1977 and 1995.
Digging deep for that one.
I dig so deep for these names. Okay, halfway through the list, number 5.
Top 5.
John Garland, the former MLB pitcher best known for his time with the White Sox. Number 4, and this one can have an asterisk if you want it to because it's not his real name. But I guess it is his real name. It's his legally changed name. Meta World Peace. Formerly Ron Artest, former NBA player, best known for his time in the Malice at the Palace when he was with the Indiana Pacers and he went up in the crowd and was punching normal fans. It was a fun time to be a basketball fan because holy crap, that was a different world we lived in back then. Okay, my top 3 here, Phil. I think you're gonna like these ones. These ones, if you like the previous 7, you're really gonna like the top 3 here. My number 3, Ed Kringle. He is a former PGA golfer.
Nice,
yes,
nice.
His real last name is Ed Kringle.
He is part of the Santa Claus family.
He is. What was when we did the hypothetical history? Who was the one that would come around and eat the kids? Krampus. I don't know why I thought Kringle, but
they're both K's.
Krampus.
I'll give it to you.
Okay. This one might be my favorite, but it wasn't number 1, and you'll know why. Number 2. His real name is Johnny Jolly. He is a former NFL defensive tackle, best known for his Packers days. And Phil, my number 1 of PK's top 10 best holiday-themed sports athletes' names, Rakeem Christmas, former Syracuse basketball player and a 3-year NBA player.
How did you find these?
Oh, I dug so deep looking for the great holiday-themed sports athletes' names.
I like it. Your top 3 was solid. Very
Thank
solid.
you. Do you want to hear some honorable mentions that didn't make my top 10?
Absolutely.
Okay. Nerlens Noel. You got JT Snow.
Oh, Snow's a good one.
DeMar Carroll.
Nice.
Angel Pagan. You're going to love this one. Le'Veon Bell.
Oh, don't ever bring him up.
There it is. Another one, Bart Starr. Dwayne Bowe. This one was tough to leave out the list. Festus Ezeli. Royal Ivy. And then Scott Frost.
Some solid names.
Thank you.
I liked
tough
all
once
the honorable mentions.
Yeah, it was tough to create a top 10 of best holiday-themed sports athletes' names, but I did it.
I'm proud of you.
Thank you. That was my game, and hope you enjoyed it, and hopefully you're sitting around the Christmas tree or the Christmas table, and you're just going to start throwing out holiday-themed sports athletes' names now, like Johnny Jolly.
So happy all the time. All right. My game came from an Instagram reel, a very random one, but happened to see it, watched it, loved it. Care 11, a news station in Minneapolis, St. Paul, Minnesota, has named their snowplows every single year. I think they said this is their 4th year, but since 2021, they've had 24 names. I don't know how often they change, obviously multiple times a year, but they threw out 24 names of what they call their snowplows. I made a top 10 list that I liked the most, and we'll start with number 10. So, number 10 was Snowy-One Kenobi.
I love it. My one first question about this. Okay. Do they have these spray painted on like the sides of it or something?
I wish. I don't think so, but they should, because some of these are fantastic. Like if you could have your personal one that you're using and you got to like choose the name for it and they would change.
Right.
Yeah, that'd be nice. I don't know.
Yeah, just spray paint the plow part of it.
Right.
And then when you see it coming down, you're seeing.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
Be amazing. All right, we'll send it to them.
Call them up.
And then we'll make sure one's called BSC, and no one will understand what it is, especially in St. Paul. Anyway, number 9 was The Big Leplowski.
I like it.
Number 8 was Edward Blizzard Hands. Number 7 was Plowy McPlowface. I like that one a lot.
Oh, I've heard of that one. I have definitely heard of that one. That one's going to be a reused one.
Number 6 is Scoop There It Is.
Yep, I like it.
Number 5 was Plowosaurus Rex.
Pat's going to like that one.
I know. I had to get the dinosaur one in there. Number 4 was Scoop Dog, which I thought was pretty great. Top 3, for me at least, in my list, were Control Salt Delete, You're a Blizzard Harry.
I like it.
You would like a lot. And this one made me laugh a lot. It was Cleopatra instead of
Oh, man.
Cleopatra. I like that one the most. By far, that was my favorite. Your Blizzard Harry was close, but Cleopatra is pretty
That
funny.
was a good one.
Well played.
My only criticism, and it's a very minor one. Plows don't typically pick up the snow. So any of the ones that have like scoop in it,
They do.
I lower their grade a bit.
They do if it's like if you're in a parking lot and they make a big mound and they have to get it to the top, they do scoop up the snow.
That's fair, but I think that's more of a front loader than a plow, in my opinion. I know the front loader can plow, but it has secondary things.
Yeah, I guess.
I just-
yeah,
I
no,
knocked a
yeah,
few
yeah. I guess.
points.
Well, I mean, even the ones
Yeah.
that are a blizzard, I was like, well, that's not exactly doing anything with the plow. You're just asking for snow.
Yeah. There's Cleopatra.
Cleopatra
That's
is
a good
pretty great.
one. Man, there's some creative people out in this world. Why can't you use your creativity for good?
I mean, that's pretty great.
Yeah, this is good, but I mean, like, curing stuff. I don't know.
I think there's a big difference between funny plow names and curing diseases.
Fine. They can name the cure of the disease.
There you go.
Yeah, I can't think of any. I can't think of any appropriate ones that I can say on the in front of the microphone.
Yeah, probably
of
nothing.
shots and stuff that would help cure a
Yeah, I got like
sickness or something
like a
that.
vaccine. If you're gonna name
Yeah.
like something that got rid of COVID, something like that.
Yeah,
or a
instead of
flu
like the
vaccine,
COVID
I gotcha.
vaccine, name
Like
it something
a
fun.
positive vaccine, fun name.
Yeah,
That's fair. That's fair.
like
I think
sick be gone.
You got to do new business, just naming things.
BSC. This is going to be a secondary, like an offshoot of the BSC.
Yes.
It's just going to be naming things.
Naming vaccines only.
Yes. But Phil, great game. I think we
Thank you.
both ended this this Christmas episode.
I do have my ugly
fun-
sweater on, so
I do too, and I got my Santa hat on as well. So
I don't have a Santa
we'll
hat.
be-
I need to get one for next year.
I got to take this off because it's already tighter on my head, and then I got the headphones over top of it, so
Oof.
I might pass out soon.
Probably, I would say
There's
hot and warm.
hot, warm, and the circulation in my brain is not working, but it rarely does. So if I just sound dumber, that's why. But yeah, a quicker episode because it's Christmas. We got to get going. I got to edit this and then get it over to Pat so he can put it out and all that kind of fun stuff. But we're not sure how big of an audience it is that's going to be listening to this. But if you are listening, make sure you pop out those earbuds and play it over the loudspeaker at your
Instead of
holiday
the
festivities. and
background
share it
like
around.
Yule log Netflix video of a fire, just play us. Or play us over the Yule log. That's fine. You can still have the video, but just play our audio.
Yeah, play our audio, tell us who you're listening to, and then have them listen to the same exact episode they just listened to on their way home because they might have missed something. And that counts as another download, and that'll help our numbers. But Phil, on this Christmas episode, is there anything else you want to add before we shut it down and get ready for the New Year's Eve episode, maybe? Is it
There
the
it is.
29th? So New Year's Eve?
We'll come up with it. Yeah, if you have your own creative plow name, let us hear it. And I mean, Buffalo could probably use some naming as well. It doesn't have to be just St. Paul. So if you got some fun Buffalo themed sports or not, snowplow names, hit us up.
Plowy make plow face.
Yeah,
I like it.
That's a great one.
Not creative, but still funny.
It's funny.
Okay, that will do it for this episode. We hope everybody has a fun and safe Christmas if that's what you celebrate. If you celebrate something else, we hope you have a fun and safe whatever other holiday you are celebrating. But it's Christmas right now, so that's why we are talking about the Christmas holiday names and holiday sports names and all that fun stuff. So hopefully you enjoyed this episode. It was shorter, and it's about the same amount of time as it would take to eat dinner or lunch or brunch or whatever you do. So just pop this on
DK's
and
really
make everybody
pushing
around you listen to it. Yeah, I'm pushing it. I'm push it like the plows do. Make plow face. So, what was it? What was your number one, Phil? We'll end on that fun
Cleopatra.
note. Cleopatra. There you go. So thank you all for listening to this extra fun episode of the Buffalo Sports Collective. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads at Buffalo Sports Collective, and on X and Blue Sky at Buffalo Sports Co. Visit our website at buffalosportscollective.com. Subscribe to our channel wherever you listen to podcasts, and make sure you leave us a review on Apple and Spotify. Until next time, bye-bye.